Salutations, my name is Summer and this is Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats. Today I'd like to go over everything I read in July, do a July wrap up. I don't think I'll be doing very many of these though, because I think I would prefer to talk about the books as I read them. So every week do a currently reading and then talk about the book that I finished when it's fresh. But today, I will try doing a July wrap up. And we got Sylvie down here, and she doesn't like, okay, I didn't think she'd hang out for long. She doesn't like Finchurch, who is behind me. Everybody's in here hanging out, so we'll see. You'll see them, probably. Okay, so the first book I'll talk about, I watched a couple series of this on MTV maybe 5 years ago. And it's the Elf Stones of, I always say Shannara by Terry Brooks, but I believe Terry Brooks said that when he wrote it, he had the name, it pronounced as Shannara. But I think Shannara is prettier and I just can't get it out of my head. So I always say the Elf Stones of Shannara. This was a slow read. It was a lot like Tolkien. I believe that Terry Brooks took a lot of his ideas, but a lot of people take a lot, their ideas from Tolkien. So it was a slow read for me, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the journey. So much stuff happens. My favorite character is a druid named Alanon, but you have a half-elf character named Will Olmsford, I want to say, and he has to go. It's a long story, but it's a whole good versus evil. You have elves and dwarves and humans working together to save the world, pretty much. And it was good. I don't really know if I should say stars or not, but I would give this 4 stars. And I have the third book. This is the second book. The first book is called The Sword of Shannara. So I have the third book. I plan to read it sometime soon, maybe. The second book I want to talk about is The Wolf Gift by Anne Rice. This is probably the third time I've read this. I enjoy this. This is the first book in, right now it's a duology, but I don't see why she would stop at just 2 when it could clearly go on to the whole series. I enjoy Anne Rice. This is a book about a young pretty boy named Reuben, and he's bitten by a werewolf. So the wolf gift, I think it's kind of clear. But Anne Rice has a way of writing it's her own. And every once in a while, I will crave what her writing gives me. So I read this. I'm not sure when I'll get to the second one again. I've read the second one once or twice before already, too. I think it's called Midsummer Wolves or something like that. The third book I want to talk about is Herding Cats by Sarah Anderson. This is the second. I have another book of hers, and I want to say they're just cute and fun, but they're almost like self-help too. If you have anxiety, if you're an introvert, if you're a little strange, I think you'll like these. And I had to read it in 2 sittings. Like, I had to make myself stop because you can just read the whole thing at once. They're so good. I just love them. So, okay, a disappointment. Tortilla Flat, John Steinbeck. This book started out, it's a group of friends, and there's certain things in here I did enjoy, but I didn't like the characters. I didn't think the friends really were friends. It seems like Sylvia's on here and she's cleaning, and I think the vibration is moving my laptop a little bit. I didn't think of them as friends, really. I didn't think, they stole from each other, they beat each other up. All they cared about was, they didn't work. All they cared about was getting enough money for some more wine. That's what I got out of this book. So I was disappointed. I love The Grapes of Wrath. East of Eden, it was all right. It was a pretty good book. Let's see. I know I read another one, but I can't think of it right now. Anyway, a disappointment. There were a lot of funny parts, but some of it I thought, oh, that's supposed to be funny, but that's not my type of humor. Anyway, The Japanese Lover by Isabel Allende. This book is not anything like what you think it's going to be. And I know it's an ARC, or an advanced reader copy, whatever you want to call it. I got it at a library book sale, so I don't know what the final cover looks like or anything. I don't know. And on the back it just talks about a romance, and the romance is so tiny. It's such a tiny part. And if you have any kind of triggers, there's a lot of sexual violence. There's so much that goes on in this book. I don't know why she called it The Japanese Lover because it's deceiving. This is not a romance, really. Anyway, tell me if you've read it and you feel differently. But yeah, I like that I don't usually read the backs. I usually don't pay attention to what the book's about when I pick it up. But I did read the back of this, and I thought, ooh, and I picked it up because I was wanting a romance. But in saying that, sorry, I just keep talking about it. In saying that, it was a really good book. Every book I've read of hers, Isabel Allende, I have really enjoyed. So even though it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, it was a really good book. A book I loved. I'm so glad I finished it. Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I'm sorry. This was so great. It was about a Korean, I believe it was 4 generations of a Korean family. And the second generation that they talk about, she ends up moving to Japan. So much happens. I didn't know so much. Number one, I didn't know that Pachinko is a super popular game. Like, gambling type game. Like pinball. It's like pinball. I didn't know that until halfway through the book. And I believe that they have, I think it's the second part 2, was called Pachinko. And I thought, oh, we're finally going to meet the lady called Pachinko. No, Pachinko is a game. And it had a lot to do with the family and how the family survived and did what they needed to do. Yeah, I learned so much from this book. And I believe that Min Jin Lee said it was going to be a trilogy, but not necessarily have the same family. So I'm excited to read something else of hers because I love the writing. I love the family. Each family member that you follow, not only that, there's friends outside of the family that become family. All the characters I enjoyed. So, and I could relate to, even though I've never been through the experiences that I've never had to deal with what they deal with. I just really enjoyed it. It was a great book. Eat, Pray, Love made me do it. And it doesn't have an author because I guess it's just it's a bind up. It's all different kinds of people who read Eat, Pray, Love, and they changed their life. So this book is very inspirational. It makes you think about why you're living the way that, are you happy with your life? Are you happy with your job? Are you happy with your relationships? And if not, maybe you should change them. Yeah, it was really good. My mom read this too, and she really enjoyed it. Another book, and my mom actually bought this, and she gave it to me because she said, "Oh, if I want to read it, I'll read it." But I was borrowing it from her at first. Grandma Gatewood's Walk by Ben Montgomery. So Emma Gatewood was the first woman to through hike the Appalachian Trail, and I believe she did it in 19. I want to say she did it in 1955, and she was 67 years old. And that was the first time. She hiked it again when she was 71, and then she section hiked it again after that. So, yeah, I mean, what an inspiration. I've always wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail, and it has not worked out for me. And it gives me hope. You know, everybody says, oh, you want to do it while you're young. But when you're young, unless you have kind of a system where people are taking care of stuff for you, you can't just leave for 6 months, as long as it takes for you to hike it. Anyway, I really love her story. This book, I don't know, I kind of felt like the author was a little dramatic, like he was trying to make things, I don't know. And it had a lot of things about her life and domestic violence, but it went back and forth. It's like, oh, she got beat up, but then it acted like she was kind of violent too. And I just I don't like people telling someone else's story, I guess. Like, I'd like to hear it from her. And she does, I guess she had diaries or journals, but there's not really much of that in here. And that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear about her hike and her experiences. And it tells a little bit, but it mostly just wants to focus on her home life. So I don't know. But she is definitely an inspiration. The idea that she was wearing just regular tennis shoes, and she had a little burlap sack, and she had, of course, arthritis and swelled feet, and sometimes she would sleep out on the ground, and it just makes me think. And I think that's what's so great about the story is it makes you feel like she did it. You could do it too. Anyway, it was a good story, and I hope to read more about her through a different author, because I don't know if I cared for the author. I think his voice was stronger than hers. I don't know if that makes any sense. Okay, the last thing, and I think it was 9 for, yeah, I finished 9 things. It's an audiobook, and it's called After the End by Claire McIntosh. I love this. When I went on Goodreads and put that I was reading it, I saw that someone had commented that they read it, and they said, I don't know what's going on in this book. I was so confused. I understand what they were saying, but I love how she took something so difficult. It's about Pip and, I believe, Max, and they have a son, Dylan, and Dylan is sick, and he's just pretty much a baby. He's 2 years old, and the things that they have to go through, the decisions they have to make, and then a huge decision that they cannot agree with. And so the hospital has to get involved, and then they have to go to court. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. I don't have children, so I can't imagine having a child and then that child being sick. I have not cried. I've read, I'll tell you exactly. I've read 97 books and I have not cried. I mean, by reading. I was crying from the very beginning of this and I cried all the way through. It is such an emotional ride. And after, it splits into two. It's almost like that movie Sliding Doors. It's an older movie with Gwyneth Paltrow. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not, but it reminded me of that because it's what if, and she mentions that poem by Robert Frost about the road less taken. You know, the snowy woods and there's two paths and whichever path you choose, that made all the difference. So it gets to the point where it does diverge off to two different paths. What if what the mom wanted happens and a judge, you know, rules for her, and then you find out what would have happened, and then it takes you back to a couple years and it says, well, what if he, the father, the court would have ruled in his favor? How would life have been different? It's so good. I'm telling you, this book is so good. And I picked it up at the library not even knowing. I just liked I didn't know what it was about. I just liked the color. So, and it's been a while since I've listened to an audiobook. So, yeah. And at the very end of this, which I don't know what's in the book because clearly I just have the audiobook, the author talks about how she had an experience with a sick child, her and her husband, and she thought, what if we couldn't agree? What would have happened to our family and our child if we couldn't agree on his treatment? I'm telling you. Oh, this book. So yeah, and it's not very long. It's only 10 discs, so it's 11 and a half hours. I'm telling you, if I could recommend any book, I would pick this up. Well, that is everything that I read for the month of July. Sometimes I read 5 books, for 3 months I read 21 books. I'm not sure what was going on there. But that's around what I read every month. So, Mayfair. And I think she was trying to bother Finchurch while he's up there sleeping. Yeah. And then I got Sylvie and Randall over here. Anyway, I'd love to hear what everybody is reading, what everybody read for the month of July, what they're reading right now, even if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts are on them. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.